Ladies and gents, welcome back to another video. Today we've got an iPhone 7. This one should be running iOS 10, which is the version that it shipped with when it was launched in 2016. So let's get it opened up, see what we've got, and find out if we have ourselves a matching counterpart to this iOS 10 Rose Gold iPhone 7. Let's begin. Okay, here it is, and it is labeled iPhone 7, 128GB AT&T, but then over here it says 7 Plus. Obviously this is not an iPhone 7 Plus because it's only got the one camera and it's a bit smaller. It is in the jet black color, and look at that, we've got a silver SIM card tray. That's pretty random. I'm not sure who thought that was a good idea, but this is a jet black iPhone 7. Now, the question remains, which version of iOS is it running? And we're going to find out here in just a moment. It appears to be completely dead. It's not even showing the low battery symbol. So I'm going to get this plugged into power, clean it up just a little bit because that display looks pretty dirty and actually very scratched up. Hopefully that means that this phone has not been updated, but usually when iPhones are really used like this, they have seen their share of software updates. So fingers crossed that this thing is still running iOS 10. Let's get it plugged into power and see what happens. All right, the iPhone has been on the charger for a few minutes and I did my best at cleaning it up. The rear of the device has a lot of scratches, as you can see there, and the front is not too different. So many scratches on the front glass here. Now the rear of this iPhone, although it looks like glass, is actually not. I am not 100% sure what it is. I believe it is similar to the aluminum on the other models, but this is the jet black, and it appears very shiny, almost like glass, but it is not. Okay, moment of truth. We do have the iOS 10 wallpaper. We'll go ahead and press that home button, and this does look like iOS 10 based on the applications. We'll head into settings, general, and about to be 100% certain. Okay, look at that. We've got iOS 10.0.1. It's a 128GB iPhone. This is pretty cool, and we're going to talk about why this is actually really sweet here in just a second. So iOS 10. Obviously, it launched here on the iPhone 7 and the 7 Plus, but 10.0 hardly lasted at all. It's almost impossible to find an iPhone 7 or any iPhone for that matter on iOS 10.0. That's because there was a fatal flaw in that version of iOS, and Apple quickly released 10.0.1, which is what we have here. That version is much more common to get, and I don't actually know if I've ever seen an iPhone 7 on 10.0. It's almost impossible to find because there were so few of them and they all updated very quickly. Because if you bought one of these new and it came with 10.0, then there's no reason to keep it on that. You wanted to update because you wanted to fix those flaws. I'll see if I can find any information online, but I am not 100% sure what the issue was. I just know that there was a big problem with 10.0, and very quickly Apple launched 10.0.1. Now the iPhone 7 looks pretty similar to the 6 and the 6S that it replaced. The differences include the colorways. The 7 and 7 Plus launched in jet black, black, silver, gold, rose gold, and product red. Bunch of different colors, and they all look very nice, although I do think the product red is my favorite, especially with the white screen and the red aluminum rear. The jet black is a close second because this thing looks fantastic. The iPhone 7 also removed the headphone jack, so that is gone, as you can see. Instead, we have speakers and microphone down here on either side. And on the back, we do have a bit of an updated camera bump. It's a little more flush with the iPhone, and it's a little bit rounded off. Now, the iPhone 7 increased the base storage from 16 to 32 gigabytes. That was the first time Apple had done that in many years. 16 gigabytes had been standard all the way back to, I believe, the iPhone 3GS when that thing came out. So that was 2009, so that would have been pretty much 7 years of 16 gigabytes as the base configuration. So getting 32 on here was a big, nice improvement. Along with that, the mid-tier option was 128 gigabytes, which at the time was the highest you had seen in previous iPhones. The 6 and the 6S could be configured with 128, but now that that was offered as a mid-tier, Apple also introduced 256 gigabytes on the iPhone 7 and the 7 Plus. That was the highest capacity of any iPhone at the time, and would remain that way all the way up until the iPhone XS came out and bumped that up to 512. This was the first quad-core iPhone, so Apple introduced the A10 Fusion chip, which is a 2.3 gigahertz quad-core processor. It includes 2 high-performance cores and 2 efficiency cores. The graphics was also improved over the iPhone 6S, and hugely improved over the iPhone 5S and the 6 before it. This iPhone was very powerful and did a lot of demanding tasks really well. Probably the biggest shortcoming of this device is the battery. It's got a very similar capacity to the 6 and the 6S, and all of that new power meant that this thing used quite a bit of battery, and it did not fare that well, especially long term, which we'll talk about here in just a moment. Something else that was new in the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus was the addition of stereo speakers. So the iPhones always had a loudspeaker down here at the bottom, but with the 7 and 7 Plus, they introduced a second one up here at the top. So when holding the phone in landscape mode, you actually did get stereo sound. Now the bottom speaker was a bit louder on the iPhone 7 compared to the top one. Apple did their best to improve that with the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10 in the following year. The display of the iPhone 7 actually saw a bit of an improvement. The iPhone 6S before it had a max brightness of 500 nits. The 7 and 7 Plus improved that to 625. So a little bit brighter display goes a long way, especially when using this thing outside or when watching videos and movies. Overall, there were a lot of quality of life improvements here on the iPhone 7. One of those is updated haptics. So the iPhone 6S introduced the haptic engine, and the iPhone 7 improved upon it, adding haptics to more features across the UI. So for example, in the clock application, scrolling up and down here actually caused the phone to vibrate, something that was not possible on the iPhone 6S. Something else that was new with the 7 and 7 Plus was the addition of water resistance. This thing is rated at IP67, and I believe that corresponds to 30 minutes under 1 meter or 3 feet of water. That is how long this iPhone is able to withstand water. That said, I would not trust that anymore, especially not on a collector's item like this. Perhaps if you had a sealed iPhone 7 and you opened it, it might still be waterproof, but some of those seals inside do decay and wear out over time. In this model here, with whatever the heck the person who owned it before me thought was a good idea with the silver SIM card tray, I don't even think this is from an iPhone 7 because of the way it's sticking out. I'm going to have to get that taken out and replace that with a jet black SIM card tray because that is a real sore thumb sticking out here on this beautiful jet black iPhone 7. So the iPhone 7 came with iOS 10 at launch, and it would get iOS 11, 12, 13, 14, and iOS 15 would be the end of support. So 5 years of software updates is decent, but newer iPhones do get support for much longer. And interestingly, this ended support on the same version as the iPhone 6S and the first gen iPhone SE. So not sure what Apple was doing there other than getting this phone out of the software support, but iOS 15 is where this thing finishes. That said, this phone was not without its problems. The 7 and the 7 Plus have a couple known issues that are very common amongst these models. Both of the failures that I'm familiar with involve chips on the motherboard. One is the cellular data chip, which for some reason goes bad, and the iPhone is unable to connect to networks. And that means you can't actually activate it. So if you have one that has a bad cellular chip, I believe that's referred to as the modem. So if the modem goes bad, this thing will not activate. If you have it activated, you can't use it on a network. So it's kind of finicky, but not ideal. The other failure with this is a chip for the microphone. So sometimes that goes bad, and then the microphones on the iPhone 7 are unable to record audio. So you can't do phone calls and you cannot record video on the device. Speaking of video, this thing does 4K at 30 FPS. I'll go ahead and show you guys what that looks like. We'll switch over right now. And here we are on the iPhone 7. You can see how this looks and sounds. It's going to sound a bit different because I'm not using my microphone that I typically have plugged into my main setup, but the video quality should be pretty similar because this is recording at 4K, albeit 30 FPS. So the frame rate's going to be a little lower than the rest of the video, but the resolution should be about the same. That said, this thing is not able to record HDR and it is not able to do 4K at 60, so we'll go ahead and switch back. The iPhone 7 was the first standard-sized iPhone to feature optical image stabilization, something Apple did introduce with the iPhone 6 Plus and carried over to the 6S Plus. However, the 6 and the 6S models did not get that. Here, when the iPhone 7 launched, they did bring that feature to the base model, so every iPhone 7 and every iPhone 7 Plus do have optical image stabilization, which is very nice when you're recording video. A couple key differences between the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus, apart from the obvious difference in the screen size, is the iPhone 7 only has a single camera back here, the 7 Plus has two, and the iPhone 7 only has 2 gigabytes of RAM, while the 7 Plus has 3 gigabytes. That memory is clocked at LPDDR4 speeds, and for whatever reason, the 7 Plus got more memory, maybe because you're paying more, maybe because it has 2 cameras for portrait mode. I'm not really sure, but all things considered, this is a very solid phone and it held up very well. Using one of these in 2025 is not ideal. The main reasons for that include the battery on this, which is not very good anymore. Although my model is probably decent, I don't think we get battery health. I believe that was introduced in iOS 11. Someone correct me if I'm wrong about that. No way to see our battery health here on iOS 10. The other reason that this phone is not good as a daily driver in 2025 is going to be because of those failures we mentioned earlier and software support. iOS 15 is several years old at this point, and you're going to miss out on a lot of new features that some newer iPhones have. That said, this is a very cool phone to have as a collector, and it looks fantastic next to my rose gold iPhone 7. These are both running iOS 10, although having one on 10.0.1 is super cool, and if I ever find one on 10.0, that will be the holy grail of iPhone 7s. All right, that's going to do it for this video. Hope you enjoyed this quick look here at an iPhone 7 that's never been updated, still running iOS 10. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I look forward to seeing you in another one of my videos.